Good morning. It is 7:15 and the rain is coming down. It is a beautiful fall rainy day. Hopefully the sound of rain in the video is soothing and not annoying. I also just got a new phone, and so this is the first video I am filming on this new phone, so I'm still getting the hang of how everything is going to look and sound and all of that. So hopefully it all works out fine. I'm going to bring you along on a what I eat in a day video today. I am also going to do my blood sugar as long as I remember and don't get too busy. On my last video, the day just ended up being busier than I expected, and so I didn't get blood sugar for all my meals, but I'm going to attempt that today. I did take my fasting blood sugar this morning, and I believe it was 85 or 86, something like that. And I've already had my morning snack / pre-workout snack. It was 2 bananas, and then I'm still working on my coffee. I have a latte with espresso and 4 ounces of farm fresh milk. I have gone back and forth on my coffee since I, kind of moved away from heavy cream. I'll still have heavy cream occasionally, but it just doesn't fit into my current eating plan as easily. So I just have moved on to other things, which is crazy because I've been a heavy cream girl for a very, very long time. That was like a non-negotiable for me. So it's kind of wild to move away from that. Anyways, I've done like my dairy-free creamer, I've done half and half, and I kind of just recently settled on just doing like half a cup of my farm fresh milk. I'm okay with the carbs from milk. I'm okay with the little bit of fat from milk because in 4 ounces of milk, there's not a ton of fat. It's still on the lower fat end, so it fits into my macros. And there's a little bit of protein, but again, that fits into my macros. So anyways, I have been doing that in my coffee recently. We are going to have another chat a little bit later. I want to talk about my A1C results that I got recently, but I have exercise class at 8 a.m. and it's 7:15 right now, so I need to get ready and get moving, so I don't have time to get into all the details right now, but I will be back for that. So I had my pre-workout snack. I am going to go do my workout, and then after I get home from that, I will be having more of a bigger breakfast. I'm about to head to exercise class, so of course I'm getting my Element mixed up. This video is sponsored by Element today. I have been using Element for a very long time now, and I love it just, sipping on through my everyday life, but it also is very, very nice on my hard exercise days where I'm working out and sweating. I never go without my Element. So I'm going to go ahead and get this mixed up. I'm doing the raspberry salt today. And if you are interested in trying out Element to see if it is right for you, you can get a free sample pack just by using my link, drinkelement.com/indigo, drinklmnt.com/indigo. Click that link. Place an order for anything on the website. I do believe the lemonade salt is back now, so definitely try that if you haven't. And if you used my link, you will automatically get a free sample pack added to your order at no charge. Of course, if it's free, it's at no charge. And the sample pack includes 2 of each of their most popular fruit flavors, so you can check those out, or it's a great way to pass on the gift of hydration to a friend. Thanks again to Element for sponsoring the video today, and I've got to get moving. I am home from exercise class. We had a very tough workout this morning, but it was really good. And I did my red light therapy. It always feels so good to come home after a hard, sweaty workout, take a shower, do the red light therapy. It's so incredibly relaxing after working so hard. So I did that. I had my breakfast. It was steel cut oats with some Greek yogurt. I used the 2% Fage Greek yogurt. And then I put on top some homemade pear preserves. We went and you picked pears a couple weeks ago, and I made a bunch of different things, but the pear preserves were my favorite. So delicious, with some spices in there like cinnamon and I think cardamom maybe. So good. So that's what I had for breakfast. So now I wanted to do a little chat about my A1C. I got this question on a recent video just asking how the switch to high carb has affected my A1C. So I wanted to, I just got it tested, last week? And so I wanted to go over my new results, and then kind of my history of A1C with keto and then with moving to higher carb. So I went back and looked at several blood tests from keto time, like 2002, 2003. I found 5 different results, and it was 5.0, 5.1, 4.9, 5.0, 5.1. So it was right there around that 5.0 mark on keto. With the shift from keto, so I shifted from keto, which was around 30 grams of carbs, slowly to about 100 grams of carbs. And I did this all very slowly. There was no like giant jumps until I went, all the way to the sugar diet. But going from keto, I slowly went to 100 grams, and then I slowly went to 200 grams. And then it was at that point that I jumped into the sugar diet and I went up to 400 to 500 grams. So when I was shifting from keto to around the 200 gram mark, I saw my A1C go up to 5.3. I didn't get it tested often in that time, just a couple times, and I think both times it was 5.3. So I did see an increase in my A1C from keto to adding in carbs up to that 1 to 200 gram mark. Then back in May, when I jumped from 200 grams of carbs to 400 grams of carbs and did my 2-week sugar diet experiment, I was really curious to find out if my blood sugar was like my A1C was really gonna start going up from that. And so I got my A1C tested about a month after I made that switch. And at that point, my A1C was 5.4. So it had gone up, but only up 0.1. And so I was like, well, that could have been worse, I suppose. Doubling the amount of carbohydrates I was eating, going to a high carb diet, which I had never really done before. Seeing my A1C only go up that 0.1, I was pretty happy with that. But as I told you back when I shared those results a few months ago, I definitely don't want to see it continue. Like every time I get my A1C tested, if it's going up 0.1 every time, obviously there's a point at which we have to make some adjustments. So I was really curious to get my A1C tested again, and because it's been about 4 months since I made that switch to high carb, low fat. My carbs are coming in around 400 grams per day. It's rare that I can go all the way up to 500 these days. It's usually somewhere in that 400 gram range. So I was just really curious to see if it's going to keep going up. So my A1C test came in from last week, and I was very happy to see that it was 5.2. It had gone down 0.2 over the last about 3 months. While I still was keeping my carbohydrates in that 400 gram range. So I was really, really happy about that. I had a feeling it was going to be pretty good because I've been taking my finger prick blood sugar, mostly when I do videos, but every once in a while, like when I do videos, I will do the 1 hour and the 2 hour finger prick. And I have been really, really shocked and very happy with my blood sugar response to these very high carb meals. And for those of you that don't, know kind of the healthy ranges of blood sugar, I mean, different people have different opinions, as on everything, but it's generally accepted that you want your blood sugar to be under either 180 or 140. Different people say different things, but under 180 or 140 at 1 hour, and then also at 2 hours. Like you want it to be definitely below 180 at 2 hours. And what I have been finding with the types of meals that I'm eating, that oftentimes we'll have 100 grams of carbs in the meal. A lot of those carbs coming from sugar. I mean, the pear preserves I had on my oats today were made with regular sugar. And by regular, I mean like organic, raw, like I use like the healthier version of sugar. It's not just the white purified sugar, but it's still sugar, obviously. And even with carbs from sugar, carbs from grains, carbs from fruit, my blood sugar can handle very easily that 100 grams of carbs or more. And oftentimes I don't even see my blood sugar go over 100. And it's extremely rare for me to see it go over 140. That just hardly ever happens anymore. And so I have, taking those finger pricks here and there, I had a good idea that my blood sugar was handling these carbs pretty well. Just to put it in perspective, I was eating maybe 20 to 30, sometimes up to 50 grams of carbs per day when I was keto. And my A1C was, 5 or 5.1. One time I saw that 4.9. It was very exciting. And you would think that increasing my carbohydrate count more than 10 times, going from 30 to 400 grams of carbs per day, I would see more of a rise in my A1C than a 0.2, going from, 5.1 to 5.2. It blows my keto mind, because I was in the keto world for a really long time. And you kind of get into this mode that carbs equal blood sugar. And the more carbs you eat, the more blood sugar you have, the higher your blood sugar will go. And I have found, and this is the way it is with so many different things involving the body is so complex that perfect equation doesn't often work out perfectly. There are so many other things involved and factors in the body that just trying to reduce the number of carbohydrates doesn't always correspond to reducing the amount of blood sugar. Now, whenever I talk about blood sugar, I always get comments from people saying, it's all fine and good if blood sugar is fine, but you don't know what your insulin is doing. And that is true. I don't have any kind of an insulin monitor. It would be great if we had a continuous insulin monitor to see, what it does throughout the day. That would be fascinating. But I will say I have a lot of clues that I am very insulin sensitive, and that it's not just that my body is producing buckets of insulin in order to keep my blood sugar lower. And a few ways that are clues to me that that's not the case is my fasting insulin is low. It's around the 6.0 range. It kind of bounces 6.0, 6.2. It's been, every time I've gotten it tested in the last 4 months of being on a high carb, it has been in that 6 range. And so that is a good clue. Also, the amount of time it takes for my blood sugar to come back down to baseline is very, very quick. So I not only see a smaller spike in my blood glucose after a high carb meal, but I also see it come down very quickly. It's not staying elevated for a long amount of time. And if it were staying elevated for a long amount of time, that would give me the clue that the insulin that's being produced to take care of the blood sugar is not, the message of the insulin is not getting through. The cells are not accepting the message. And so then my body would be producing more insulin in order to, get the blood sugar under control. So since I see my blood sugar rise very, moderately and then come back down very quickly to baseline, there is no indication that I have buckets and buckets of insulin, in my system causing all kinds of bad things. So one thing that a lot of people will say in response to people talking about a high carb diet is carbs spike insulin and we don't want high insulin. Don't you know that we don't want high insulin? High insulin does all these bad things, as if the people talking about the high carb diet want high insulin and think high insulin is fine or good. I don't, and I don't know of anyone who thinks that. Obviously, high insulin and insulin resistance is bad, and it does lots of bad things in the body. The difference comes with how to handle it. And there's the low carb world has a whole framework of how to handle high insulin, and it is effective. When you reduce carbohydrates and you don't need as much insulin, or you don't need insulin to do as much of a job, your insulin is going to be lower oftentimes. But then there's this whole other side that I have been learning about over the last couple of years on the high carb side, where they point out that having fat in your diet and fat in your cells, like your cells are trying to work through the fat from your diet. When they are, working on that fat, they are not prepared to receive the message of insulin. So if insulin comes with glucose to the cell and the cell is busy with the fat, it says, no, I can't take that right now. And that is insulin resistance. And so, this high carb side of things, they say that fat is a primary driver behind insulin resistance. And I'm not an expert. I'm not here to tell you what is definitely true. But what I can say is I have found that framework to have worked out in my own personal experience. Because once I lowered the fat, and I did that in that time where I went from 200 grams of carbs to around 400 to 500 grams of carbs, I also lowered my fat. And that is when I saw my blood sugar really, really regulate to the point where I feel like I could eat any carbohydrates from nearly any source and my body would handle it beautifully. And I find that I just don't have to play that game of numbers. I don't have to worry about like, oh, I can't eat that many carbs. I need to keep it at this level or else it's going to spike way too high. It's like my body, when I don't have that excess amount of dietary fat, my body just handles it. And again, that is a clue to me that my body is very insulin sensitive. And so I can eat a high carb meal and my cells are just ready and waiting to listen to that message of insulin. They're very sensitive to the message of insulin and can uptake that glucose very easily and use it for fuel. I also really quick wanted to point out, because I already know this is very, very long, I wanted to point out that I did, when I switched from 200 grams of carbs to 400 to 500 grams of carbs, I did see an initial uptick in my A1C. And that I think is very normal. Anytime you make some kind of adjustment, either going lower carb or higher carb or switching around your macros in any way, your body does have to adjust. And so I did see that little bit of a rise in my blood sugar, but I found that over time, my body, regulated, my insulin sensitivity probably increased. And now on the other end, it's not going up anymore. It actually dropped back down even lower at 400 grams of carbs per day than it was when I was eating 200 grams of carbs per day, which kind of blows my mind. Okay, enough about that. I hope that answered your question about A1C. Let me know down below if this whole thing about A1C was surprising for you. If someone were to go from keto and slowly increase carbs to 400, would you expect their A1C to be within like 1 point of those two diets? It was surprising to me for sure. I'm going to check my blood sugar 1 hour after eating my oatmeal with Greek yogurt and pear preserves. 90. And at 2 hours, 94. It's about noon and I am having a second cup of coffee with 4 ounces of whole milk. It's a little after 1:30 and I'm throwing together some lunch for myself. I have 5 ounces of ground beef in here. It is pretty lean ground beef. And then I'm going to throw in some potatoes. I'm probably just going to chop these in half and throw them in after the meat is cooked. And then I have some grilled peppers and onions from Trader Joe's that I'll throw in. And I'll also cut up a few of these mushrooms and get those in there as well. Here's how my potato and ground beef hash turned out. I just topped it with some barbecue sauce, the golden barbecue. This is 1 hour after my ground beef and potato hash. 1:06. And 2 hours after. 85. For dinner, I am grilling up some teriyaki chicken thighs. I did a review of this grill a couple weeks ago. I am loving it. Well, it's a smoker / grill. I am loving it. I'm using it as much as possible, especially while the weather is still decent. So I can get outside and grill without rain. But yeah, gonna cook this up, have it with some rice and some stir-fried veggies. Here is my dinner. I've got a bunch of rice with about 5 ounces of chicken thigh and some stir-fried veggies, and I just added some extra, not barbecue sauce, teriyaki sauce over it. And I've been sipping on my kombucha while I was cooking, and I'm gonna finish it with my meal. Here is 1 hour after teriyaki chicken and rice. And 2 hours.